On behalf of I welcome you all to this webinar on exploring ancient Indian wisdom, pregnancy, yoga, and Garbha Sanskar. We are streaming live on IIP India YouTube channel. You can subscribe to our channel to get regular updates when we live stream or upload our webinars. You can also follow updates of IIP from the Facebook page. Today's webinar is being organized by IIP Women's Cell Thane District Team Maharashtra. The moderators for today's webinar are Dr. Smriti Sorte, Dr. Jayaganda Rathod, and Dr. Reema Ranka. So I request the moderators to start with the session. Dr. Smriti, please unmute yourself.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to introduce you about IIPWC on this platform. IIPWC functions under the guidance of National Head Dr. Ruchi Vashni and IIP President Executive Dr. Sanjeev Jha. We have 5 zones in India with heads for each. Dr. Pooja Kamble is the West Zone head. The state team of IIPWC Maharashtra includes State Coordinator Dr. Suvarna Tanveer Ma'am, Joint Coordinator Dr. Snehal Patel, and Sub-Coordinators Dr. Uttara Mohan, Dr. Priya Karande, and Dr. Nirali Sang. In Maharashtra, IIPWC has conducted 40 plus low cost activities like CMEs, workshops, public awareness campaigns, health camps in various districts since 2008. We have also organized 33 webinars on topics such as PNF for trunk, NDT, kinetic chain activation technique, testing, SCI rehab, PCOD, ICF, IG, and many more. In first corporate IAP conference held in 2019, Maharashtra State received award for the best state IAPWC. We are constantly working towards expanding the scope of activities and workshops to the benefit of our profession. We would appreciate your feedbacks on our webinars. So please submit your feedback on the link provided at the end of this webinar. In this link, you may also give us suggestions for webinar topics which you would like to attend. To know about our upcoming events, please follow the IAPWC page and IAP page, Facebook page. I really take this honor to introduce our resource person, Dr. Aditi Srivastava. Dr. Aditi Srivastava is a physiotherapist by profession and a LAMASE certified childbirth educator, a pregnancy nutrition counselor, lactation and young child nutrition counselor, a certified Garbh Sanskar and yoga practitioner by passion. With over 15 years of experience in working with thousands of expecting couples in every stage of pregnancy, now she is working extensively towards integrating obstetric and intrapartum physiotherapy to the mainstream physiotherapy through Simplifying Birth TM. Today's webinar is on Exploring Ancient India Wisdom, Pregnancy, Yoga, and Garbh Sanskar by Dr. Aditi Srivastava ma'am. Dr. Jay Patil Rathod and Dr. Reema Ranka are the state coordinators. During the webinar, if you have any queries or questions to ask the resource person, you may please post them in the chat section. Over to Dr. Aditi ma'am. Please continue. We would take this opportunity to listen to you.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank entire Indian Association of Physiotherapists, Women Council, and especially the team of Thane District, Maharashtra for giving this opportunity. So let's begin today's session.
Ma'am, you can share your screen.
I have shared the screen. Just a minute. Is the screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, let's begin then. So the topic of today is, of course, exploring the ancient Indian wisdom. So let's understand the topic first, what it is all about. We understand the meaning of ancient, that means it's very old. So the topic, the yoga and the Garb Sanskar, which is basically a part of Ayurveda, they are known to be existing in India for at least 5,000 years. It could be more than that, but this is what the ancient literature describes. And it is our own Indian wisdom. So this entire webinar is based on the concepts of yoga and Ayurveda, and Garb Sanskar is a part of Ayurveda. So before we move further, we have to understand the basic philosophy and the concepts of both these two topics, because as a physiotherapist, we have studied literature, which is of modern medicine. We have studied anatomy and physiology. So quite a few concepts might be new to all of us and might be, interesting and different to understand. So first and foremost, we have to understand what is health. As per the WHO definition, we all are aware that health is not just a state of physical well-being, but it includes mental and social health also. That is what the WHO describes the definition of health. Now, if we go by our ancient wisdom, that is of yoga or Ayurveda, the health is comprising two more points, that is spiritual as well as emotional. So it's much more broader in concept, the concept of health. So it's not only the physical, mental or social well-being, spiritual and emotional aspects are also included in yoga and Ayurveda. Now the concept of body, our physical body which develops illness. If you go by modern medicine, we focus mostly on physical aspects, things which we can see, the bones, the muscles, the nerve, we can see all those things. But when we discuss about the concept of body in terms of yoga or in Ayurveda, it is much more elaborate and deeper, and it includes more than physical. First and foremost, of course, is the physical aspect. It's known as Annamaya Kosh, the part of body which develops when we eat food, drink water, and that is visible to us. But apart from that, there are four more layers which may not be visible. Just to simplify those things, Pranamaya Kosh focus on energy, Manomaya Kosh refers to mind, and then few more things. So of all these five parts or five layers of our body, one is visible, which is known as the Annamaya Kosh, and rest of them are of course invisible. They are related to your energy, the nadis and chakras and all those things. So, and apart from that, when we talk about Ayurveda and yoga, we always say that our body is made up of five elements. It's not just about your carbohydrates, peptides, proteins, and fats. We refer to as Bhumi, Jal, Vayu, Agni, Akash. The five elements constitutes our body. So this is how the concept of body differs from modern medicine and traditional medicine. Now coming to yoga. Yoga or yoga in Hindi, what we call it. Basically, it's a Sanskrit word which is derived from word yuj, that means to connect, to join or balance. So it's not only about connection of your physical body to mental body, but it includes much higher aspects in terms of spirituality or dhyan or samadhi or all those things. So when we talk about yoga, you must have heard this term in many contexts. There are people who are doing asanas, they are doing some type of yoga. There are people who are more inclined toward religious or spiritual aspect. They are practicing different type of yoga. So these four branches are the types or branches of yoga. As a physiotherapist or health professional, obviously we need not go into so much detail, just for your knowledge. But what is more important is something known as hatha yoga or hat yoga, which focus more on the physical aspects as well as your breath and the movement and energy aspects. Now, in modern context, there are so many other types of yoga which has now come into practice. For example, you might have heard Vinyasa Yoga, Power Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Sivananda, Kundalini, different types. There may be many more. So these are basically modern types of yoga. They don't find any place in ancient text or the history or philosophy of yoga, but they do differ from each other in some aspects of asana or pranayama. So these are modern methods of yoga. Now, Rishi Patanjali is like what we known as Ashtanga Yoga. He described yoga into 8 parts. So, of all of these 8 parts, because as we keep on saying, yoga is not just about physical aspect. We include mental aspect. We include spiritual aspect also. So, yoga is not only about asana. It includes so many things which you can see about the 8 limbs of yoga. But of course, as a physiotherapist or a health professional, we are concerned about 3 important aspects of these 8 limbs, which are asana or postures or exercises, pranayama, which we call breathing exercises, and relaxation or meditation. So out of these 8 parts, we are more focused about these 3 aspects. Now, how this pregnancy yoga evolved? See, pregnancy yoga is not described in ancient literature or text of yoga. It is nowhere mentioned that these asanas are for pregnant women. Only somewhere in 1960, a yogacharya called Krishnamacharya, he described few asanas which are suitable for pregnant women. And somewhere around 1980 and 90, after different books were written, Geeta Iyengar wrote a book. She is daughter of BKS, Shri BKS Iyengar, who gave Iyengar's yoga. And since then, you can say the evolution of pregnancy yoga happened. Only somewhere around 1980, 1990, it became popular not only in India, but in Western countries also. And this is how it evolved. So obviously the pregnancy yoga is not a classical yoga, and different modification and postures have been described. So pregnancy yoga, why it has gained so much of popularity, why so many people want to practice yoga, is of course the benefits which they have got because of it. Just to name and summarize few of them. During pregnancy, lot of physical discomfort, right, in terms of pain, which would be in your neck region, shoulder, back, pelvic girdle, right from head to toe. Different part can get different pain related problem. So if expecting mother is practicing yoga, the probability of getting this physical discomfort is much lesser. Not only body, because yoga always focus on mind also, or your mental stress also. So they always report decreased stress, anxiety and mood swings, all those things which are part and parcel of pregnancy, and better sleep. So yoga helps not only physically but at the mental level also during pregnancy. But the benefits of yoga is not limited only to pregnancy. Even during labor, there are many studies which have been done. I have given references in the end. So it has been found the women who practice yoga or pregnancy yoga, the outcome of delivery, that means the chances of normal delivery were more. Duration of labor, that means for how long they went for labor, or the number of hours they spend in active stage of labor, they were lesser, and they reported lesser pain at the time of labor. So many studies and researches have been conducted in this aspect also. So as a physiotherapist, like if you want to explain yogasana or yoga exercise or yoga poses to expecting mother, what are the important things we have to keep in mind before we explain or advise any yogasana or exercises? First and foremost, you must screen them for all type of contraindication. You may get expecting mothers who are coming to you directly without a referral from doctor, and they might be referred for some exercises also. So whatever is the case, it is your responsibility and duty to check out for all the contraindications. I have not listed because there are so many. If you want to refer in them in detail, ACOG has written a different type of contraindication, absolute, relative. So basically your heart related problem, lung related problem, cervical shortening or risk of miscarriage. There are so many medical conditions have been listed. So if she is found to have any of them, then of course you should not be teaching them any yoga or exercises. When you teach them yoga or exercises, it is your responsibility to explain all the necessary precautions to them, because when we talk about pregnancy yoga and yoga, things are a lot different. In yoga, there is a particular pattern of breathing. You hold breath for certain time, then you release it. You may have to practice yoga on an empty stomach. You may have to perform a pose for a longer time, but all these things does not hold true when you are doing pregnancy yoga. Lot many modifications are advised in pregnancy, and obviously depending upon the stage, right from first, second or third, there are certain asanas which they should not be doing. There are certain pranayam they should not be practicing. So basic precautions, like if you have to tell them ki, okay, if you are doing yoga, you are doing yoga poses, never do them on empty stomach. You can drink water in between. Don't do it in a jerky or bouncy way. Hold the stretch to your comfortable. So all the necessary precautions which we advise for exercises, it's our duty to explain them. Now, few things, they are not important from expecting mother's point of view, but as a physiotherapist, because yoga is something which we have not studied much in detail in our graduation years. Of course, we have few chapters, and many people out of interest done some course also. So there are many asanas or terms which may be new for you. So before you advise anything, it is very important that you practice everything before you start preaching. So what are the important steps to learn a proper yogasana or for pregnancy or for whatever condition, and how you should be doing that? First and foremost thing is you should be familiar with the name of asana. Now, because yoga is our Indian text, so most of the asanas are written in Shuddha Hindi or a Sanskrit form. And of course, there are like English names are also advised depending upon the type of poses. So you should be familiar with the name of asana, correct sequence of movement, because in yoga or yogasana, the posture is sustained for a some time. We don't do according to the counting, like how many repetition or how seconds or for how long you should be holding the stretch. It is as per the comfort of individual who is performing the asana or pose. So learning the correct sequence, we'll explain this thing more in the video also. So learning correct sequence of movement is very important. Benefits, because obviously they will be asking you why we should be doing this, what are the benefits, or is there any way it can harm our baby. And asana specific precaution, different poses and different asanas, they have different points also to be kept in mind, where they can go wrong or what could be the risk of fall or injury associated with asana. So all these things written in blue sequence, they are not important from expecting mother's point of view, but if you want to do any or teach them any asana, be thorough with all these points before you teach them, and always practice and try to feel where you are feeling stretch, or how for how long can you stay in that posture, how your breathing is, which part is getting compressed, are you feeling stable or not, before you teach them anything. So when we do a yogasana or a pregnancy yoga or a yoga session, how we have to design it? Because as I said, it is not just about performing asanas or exercises. Yoga is much more elaborative. It includes meditation. It includes breathing exercises. also, and of course the spiritual aspect. So if you are performing a pure yoga or a pure pregnancy yoga session, ideally this should be your format. We always start with prayer. You know, a prayer could be, usually it's in Hindi or a mantra, but it begins with a prayer. Warm up session. Warm up in yoga is basically referred as Sukshma asanas or micro exercises, which were devised by Guru Dhiren Brahmachari ji. And there are different, basically active ROM or gentle movements or rotations of different parts of body. For example, you do neck movements, you do shoulder rolls, shoulder rotation, wrist rotations, ankle toe movements, on spot walking. A little warm up is always preceded before performing any asana for at least 3 to 5 minutes. Then we start off with main asanas. Asanas or static postures or poses. Now we usually begin with standing asana. The reason is because of course they are more strenuous and different asanas has of course different benefit, but all the standing asanas or standing postures of yoga, when we do them in standing, you have to understand it affects the entire body. Your spine is in correct posture, your legs are getting worked out, your arm in a certain position, so you're working on your arms also, so they are little difficult to perform. Then we progress to sitting asana. There is no hard and fast rule. For example, if mothers are in third trimester or they are feeling exhausted, it's not necessary that every time you have to start with standing. You can straight away progress to sitting posture. But if possible, then of course standing and sitting should be alternated. Then probably after performing yoga for 15 to 20 minutes of a warm up and then standing pose and sitting pose, by end of 20-25 minutes, expecting mothers do get tired, so they need to relax also. Then we make them practice relaxation poses. See, in yoga we never say it's a rest period. Even the position of rest is also termed as asana. For example, shavasana. But being in pregnancy, they are not supposed to lie down in straight position for a very long. So probably a side lying, left side lying position would be much better pose to relax. And there are different poses for relaxation also. Like even if they are lying supine, they can elevate your head end slightly so that the blood circulation is not impaired. Now after they have relaxed for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, depending upon their strength, we practice other poses of different position, for example in prone kneeling or kneeling. Then once all asanas are over, then we move on to pranayam or the breathing exercise. In between relaxation poses also you can ask them to perform breathing exercises. It depends how you want to make them perform, but again breathing exercise is a very important part of yoga session or pregnancy yoga. Now pranayam, pran basically refers to life force or energy. So breath is one of them. It is not the entire pranayam, but there are few pranayams which should never be performed when a mother is expecting, right? So first and foremost, remember because they'll be asking they might be doing yoga before pregnancy also. So any forceful expiration, especially like Kapalbhati, it should never be performed. Then there are certain breathing exercises which are referred as cooling exercises or heating exercises. Depending upon your different, we have different nadis like left side or right side. Right refers to your sun, Surya Nadi, and left is for moon. So basically we need to perform breathing exercises which gives cooling effect on body. Or if you just want to keep it simple, Anulom Vilom pranayam or moon pranayam or Chandra Bhedna pranayam or Bhramri pranayam are the three, or Nadi Shodhan pranayam are the 3-4 important pranayam which you can advise them. Actually, everybody is very comfortable because Anulom Vilom is something most of them are aware with the name. So if they have never done yoga, so this is one simple pranayam you can start off with. Then it is followed by some relaxation or meditation. Now, relaxation, as a physiotherapist also, we explain Jacobson's progressive relaxation, Michel's relaxation. In yoga, the method of relaxation is slightly different. It is guided relaxation, or if you are performing it in proper step for a very long time, it is also known as yoga nindra. That process itself takes half an hour or maybe longer than that. But a visualization technique, like you make them lie in a comfortable pose. If they are lying, then it should always be side lying, or they could be sitting or doing recline sitting. And then you guide them by visualizing nice or beautiful scenery and ask them to relax. It can also be done in the form of meditation, like they will be sitting silently, just focusing on their breath, or they are chanting a particular mantra, or Om chanting can be performed. And then we end the session with a prayer. So this is a yoga session. It usually takes around 1 hour to get into all this process and look into each and every aspect and finish them. But this is how a proper yoga, pregnancy yoga session should be, which includes your physical asanas, your pranayama, breathing, and relaxation or meditation as well. Now, let me just show you few important asanas. Can everybody see? The first asana is Tadasana. Legs should always be apart in standing poses, at least shoulder width apart. And entire posture should be straight, like your ears and shoulder in same line. Pelvis, lordosis should not be, lordosis should not be exaggerated. Hands interlocked and stretched up. Ideally in Tadasana, we have to raise our heels also, but for expecting mother, that may be, not a very good position for maintaining balance. So you can ask them to keep their heels down, stretch in body as if they are trying to touch the ceiling. If they are feeling more balanced, they can look up. Otherwise, they can keep on looking straight and maintain this posture. It's not according to the count, like you have to count for as long, maybe 6 seconds, it could be 10. If they are practicing before pregnancy, it could be longer also. And then relax. So this is Tadasana. It helps in improving the posture. Now next asana is Trikonasana. Again, the legs should be slightly apart, at least shoulder width apart. One foot should be slightly turned outward for balance. Hands raised at the level of shoulder. Bend on one side. Remember, ideally in Trikonasana, one is supposed to touch or reach till the malleolus level, which is of course not possible for a expecting mother, even for us also. So whatever is the range of bending is possible. Other palm is facing straight. You are looking up. And sometimes some props can also be used, like yoga blocks or something where you are resting your hand. Otherwise, you can just rest your hand on the leg. Look for the other side. You have to always tell them, because when they are performing in group, they feel like she is able to do better than me. So I should, let me just, catch her or meet the, standards of exact pose. You have to tell them each and every person has a different body and flexibility. So do as per your comfort level. Do not try to copy or imitate someone who is doing other pose. Next asana is Veerbhadrasana. Again, you have to separate your legs around 2 to 3 feet width. It's not shoulder width, it should be more. Then turn your leg outward such that one foot is perpendicular to other. Bend the knee. Knee is almost in line with the toes. Raise your hands till the shoulder level. Look towards the right hand and maintain the pose. There are two modifications of Veerbhadrasana. In other asana, we actually raise both our arms up and do it. And you have to be very particular, like how you are coming back to the starting position. Yoga is not just about telling them the pose. How you come back to the original position, that is very important. Kati Chakrasana works good on digestive system and related problems. legs apart, hands raised to shoulder level, one hand put on shoulder, other on back, and then you look back. And in this exercise, you don't have to hold the position for very long. It's just for a moment of brief time. You just have to look backward and come back and repeat for other side also. There are a couple of books they say like in late, trimesters of pregnancy, rotation of trunk should not be done. But probably I would say in first trimester or early second trimester, if she is having a lot of digestive related problem, acidity, heartburn, constipation, these are very common problems a pregnant mother faces. Now, listen, watch carefully about this. I am performing some sitting pose asana. Now look again. Can you spot any difference between the first and second? Right, I was about to fall. So you have to understand the correct sequence is very important. So if you are not supporting hands at the back or not instructing them properly, they might even fall also. So for all sitting asana, remember this. First, keep your hand at the back. Ask her to put weight slightly backward. Then you have to slide your leg. You don't have to lift them up. That increases your abdominal pressure. It can cause even pelvic girdle pain, symphysis pain. So you have to slide your legs. The easiest asana for mobility of pelvic girdle, which is a very important area to be mobilized in mothers, because nowadays we have a sedentary lifestyle. We are not using Indian washroom. We hardly sit cross leg or on floor. So you can expect a lot of tightness in the hip girdle or the pelvic girdle. So obviously this is the important area which needs to be mobilized. And you have to see which exercise work for best. There may be mothers who will not be able to, if you ask them, okay, you come on the floor, let me teach you some exercises. They are struggling to come to a cross leg position. So and after few repetition, you can ask them, okay, can you pull your sole little inward also, and then bring your knee up and down. This is known as Ardha Titli Asana or half butterfly pose. Janu Shirsasana, or Janu means knee, Shirsh means head. That means you have to bring your head to your knee, which is not possible in pregnancy. So it's basically the stretch of hamstring which we are performing. And if you can use a towel or any stole, it becomes easy for pregnant mother to perform exercise. The important points to be noted is knee should be straight, toe should be pulled in, and no flexion of spine should happen. If she is bending, she is basically coming forward, not bending the spine, and hold the stretch. Any stretching exercise, if you are just pulling, releasing, not going to help. Probably for a stretch of, let's say, 30 seconds or at least for 1 minute, maybe in breaks, should be, performed if you want to expect any improvement. Purna Titli Asana or full butterfly pose or butterfly exercise or cobbler pose or diamond pose, there are different names. So sliding and keeping your soles together as much as you can bring in. You can take back support also. Interlock your hands, bring it down, keep your spine erect, shoulders down, and start flapping. So in butterfly exercise, we move our knees up and down like a wings of a butterfly, right? So it's not a static position. You are moving up and down as per your comfort, right? And of course, with bulging tummy in late trimester, it is not possible. So even a towel can be used. But one precaution, if a mother is having pain in groin or pubic symphysis dysfunction or pain around pubic symphysis, this is not a good exercise to be taught. You should avoid this exercise. but many of the times they are somewhere in CD or a in a book or a or television, and they are familiar with exercise, so everybody is almost doing this exercise on their own also. Now, Upavishta Konasana, till now, whatever exercises we have done, we started with one leg bend and one leg stretch, so it was easy. Then we move on to both knees bend. That was slightly difficult. Now, the most difficult pose of all would be both your legs are apart. So, in this position, you can feel or understand what all muscles are getting stretched. Your adductors are stretched, your hamstring is stretched, and ideally, it should be performed with knees straight and toes in, but in later stages, mothers might not be comfortable, so they might sit with slight knee bend and get externally rotated. If they have discomfort at tailbone, ask them to use a small cushion, and this is the pose. Ideally, one should be able to touch the toes with both hands, and it is always not possible in pregnancy, and you should not force them. But whatever range, they can come forward by pulling their toes in. So again, a difficult asana. Definitely not the first asana you should be teaching them. Next is Chakki Chalanasana. Now, this is a difficult asana. It not only works on stretching different parts of lower, muscles like hamstring, lower back, calves, but because you are moving also, then it creates a lot of uh, action around your trunk area also. And in this exercise, you have to remember that you have to keep your elbows straight and your hips should remain on floor. You should not be lifting it. So it's like a churning the mill, or stirring a porridge, or like we are moving a chakki. Chakki, everybody knows, it was used to grind flour. That was the movement performed. And there may be mothers who are able to touch those, there may be who are not, but to guide. So start with easy exercise or asanas first, then move on to difficult one. And more difficult asana means more supervision, right? Marjory asana, Marjory means cat. Of course, the pose is very much familiar. If they are having discomfort at knee, put a towel, and sometimes they may have some carpal tunnel symptoms, so coming in this pose might not be very comfortable. So a pillow a towel can be kept below wrist also, so that they are in slight plantar flexion. In physiotherapy, we call this exercise cat and camel. When we call it camel, we make a hump. I'm not making a big hump. It's just a cat pose. In this exercise particularly, lot of mothers will feel scared, oh my god, it is causing stretch at my tummy, it might harm my baby. But this is a very good pose. Even if you are not moving, just being in this pose is very important, because it helps to align the baby in proper alignment. Balasana or child pose. So first you come into Vajrasana, then into 4-point kneeling. Separate your knees and try to sit on your heels and head down. And if the tummy is big, you might have to separate your knees further. And then this causes good stretch on the lower back muscles, hip muscles. You can stay in this pose for a couple of seconds more. And then coming back from asana, the pose sequences should be, you should explain that. Sulabh Ushtrasana. Sulabh means easy, Ushtra means camel. So we come into Vajrasana, then kneeling position, right? Hands supporting the lower back, elbows pointing backward, and try to look up. In Ustrasana, we actually put our hands around the ankle, which is not possible in pregnancy. You cannot cause that much stress to abdomen. But again, a good exercise, like some spinal extension can be done in this pose. I'm just showing, in a view, but they should be performed for some time, at least for a minute, or if in breaks, you should be repeating 10 times at least. Sulabh Kati Chakrasana, sitting position, one hand on knee, and coming back. We did in standing also, this is in sitting. Setu Bandhasana or the bridge pose, we are familiar very much with this. So in this, when we're doing yoga, ideally the knees are bent so much that you are able to grab your ankle, which if not, of course, possible. And knees are slightly apart, and you have to raise your back and hip region. And hands can be interlocked also. Malasana or the garland pose or a squatting exercise. If not very confident, take support. Legs more than shoulder width apart, pointing outwards. Full squat. Elbows in between knees and stretching them. Breathing normally. So these were few asanas. Now coming on to another interesting topic called of Garb Sanskar that finishes our pregnancy yoga. Now just remember this figure as we discuss the coming slide. The couple are sitting and the headphone is placed on the tummy of the mother. Now what Garb basically means, as per Ayurveda, it's not only the sperm and ova. When the Atma enters the zygote, then it becomes a Garb. And Sanskar basically means to purify, to increase your potential, to remove any shortcoming. So Garb Sanskar is basically the education of the Garb, which is formed when the zygote is there, plus when Atma enters. So it's different concept. Now, what is the aim of Garb Sanskar? They are aiming to produce a child of desirable characters. Now, when I have highlighted this word desirable means if you want to have an intelligent baby, if you want to have a well-mannered baby, or spiritually inclined, or intelligent, or having good, physical characteristics, tall, or in terms of complexion, everything. So the concept or the aim of Garb Sanskar, that is what has been said. You can produce a child of desirable characters, what you want him or her to have, and to have a stress-free pregnancy for mother as well as for baby. Now, why and how the stress affects? We always take so much effort into, giving the right medicine, taking right food, doing right exercise. But this is mental aspect of pregnancy, or this aspect of pregnancy is usually overlooked because, of course, it's not visible. So, stress has many harmful effects, not only on the mother as well as on the baby, because we know that stress releases certain hormones, cortisol, which can even cross the placenta and can cause different changes in the blood circulation and can cause a small baby, IUGR baby, unhealthy baby. It can cause pregnancy-induced hypertension. And there has been studies which suggest FOAD is fetal origin of adult diseases. They say there are many diseases like heart disease and diabetes. They had their origin in the fetal life. So if mother was more stressful or she was not being taken care properly during pregnancy, the baby is prone to all these disorders, even behavioral disorders like ADHD and everything. So the concept of Garb Sanskar is you can teach the baby many things in the womb, in the uterus, and learning can take place there also. Now, how they arrive to this concept? In ancient texts, there have been so many references. If you listen about the story of Abhimanyu and Nachiketa, I don't want to go into ancient texts, but there are different modern examples also. Probably, if you look around yourself, you might found like a musician have a baby who's for example, I give you example of Dr. Zakir Hussain. It was stated in one of his interview like his father used to play light percussion movements on the abdomen of his wife when she was expecting. And there are many researches which say that baby can actually listen and respond to different stimulus from outside in pregnancy. So brain, how the brain of the baby develops. 80% development happens in the womb, and of course there are different, food items also. If you talk in scientific terms, which are in DHA rich, which helps in proper myelination of brain, that helps in making an intelligent baby. These things are known as brain food. But of course, neurogenesis, the brain's neurons are getting formed, the entire brain is getting developed, and different synapses are also formed. So the Garg Sanskar concept or the method or technique is basically focusing everything related to the development of baby's brain and forming different synapses. So what all qualities can be improved? Physical qualities, intellectual qualities, emotional qualities, spiritual quality. Now everybody wants a super baby. So poor child, before they come to this world, so they have to learn so many things. Now there are different methodologies of Garg Sanskar which are written in our ancient text also. By ancient text I mean Ayurveda text, Sushruta Samhita, Garbhopnishad, and there are other Vedas also, Yajurved and Samved also. So these have been described in our ancient literature and text, and based on their theories and concepts, there are different techniques which are practiced. Now we also look at the scientific basis of all of this. Methods of Garb Sanskar. Visualization. Visualization is another stress releasing technique. We use it not only for Garb Sanskar but for other relaxation methods also. Here, a mother is in a comfortable position and she visualizes like how the baby is happy and she is talking to the baby. There are different methods and techniques. Baby talking or Garbh Samvar. So mother is actually taking time out. She's sitting alone and talking with the baby, whatever she wants to talk, how is the baby, or she wants to tell her or him a story. So it's the talking to, of course, baby cannot talk back, but she's actually talking as if the baby is listening. Meditation again is a very important aspect of Garb Sanskar. It mantras and music. Now, mantras and music, if you want to go in detail, there are different mantras and different ragas for different months. And the reason and the scientific basis is basically different growth of different body parts is happening at different time. And scientifically, everything can be explained with the help of brain wave modulation. We know there are different type of brain waves when we are stressed, like theta, alpha, theta, and gamma. So when we are relaxed, theta waves are more dominant. So practicing all this meditation, mantra, music, prayer, visualization, that basically keep the mother more relaxed, and those waves are more generated. Even if chanting by Om, if we don't know any complex or difficult mantra, Om is something everybody is familiar. Just chanting Om produces vibration. O, Mo in different parts of the body, and even MRI studies have been done which says that chanting Om or Gayatri months or different months activate different parts of the brain. So this is one scientific basis. And then there are a lot of activities are advised to the mother to perform to develop the brain of the baby as well as the different five senses of the baby. Just to explain, we know our brain is divided into the left half and the right half part. So there is a creative part of brain and there is logical part of brain. So different activities stimulating different parts of brain are advised. For example, solving mathematical sums, solving puzzles, playing Sudoku, engaging in coloring, listening to music, watching comedy movies. So these activities are actually advised or the mother is performing that helps in the stimulation of brain of the baby. And Garh Sanskar is a combination of each and everything, right from visualization to the activity. And if you go by Ayurveda, Garh Sanskar is not just during the pregnancy period. The actual process of Garh Sanskar begin even before you are looking for a partner. So different characteristics of how you should be, looking for a partner, and everything related to the, 3 to 6 months prior. There is something known as Beej Sanskar also. Like before you plan a baby, what all things you should be doing, and even after delivery it refers to Bal Sanskar, like once you have a baby, what you should be doing. So Dev Sanskar is not just related to pregnancy period, it extends before as well as after that also. Now, just summarizing, like understanding like yoga and Garh Sanskar, like what is the, relevance clinically also. Like ultimately we are physiotherapists, and I mean we are not going to change our profession. So if you look at the trends, you can search for them yourself also. Like as a normal population, or thinking from mothers, expecting mothers perspective, what is the most searched thing? If you can just have a look at the graph, the blue line or the blue graph, sorry, the line shows pregnancy yoga. So it is actually the most searched thing, even more than exercise. To everybody, the general population, a lot of people have awareness about yoga. And not only people, like even American Pregnancy Association, ACOG, they have written that pregnancy yoga is a safe form of exercise. So a lot of people are practicing in America also, not only in India. So definitely pregnancy yoga is of course the most sought after type of exercise in pregnancy. Even like normal exercise, which as a physiotherapist we tell about, even Pilates also. But because in India, people are more inclined towards yoga, so that is what they want to learn. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, can we start with the question and answer?
Sure, definitely.
First of all, thank you for the wonderful session that you've taken. It was really great. So the first question is, what should be the duration of yoga session in the third trimester?
If a mother is familiar with yoga, or she is practicing some type of exercise, let's say not yoga, she is doing walking. So what she has been doing before, if she is new to exercise, let's say she is starting first time exercise in third trimester, she has not done anything in first or second, start with, let's say 10 minutes, that would be sufficient, and every week at 5 minutes. If she has been doing exercise for 20 minutes, let's say, then ideal is increase 5 minutes every week or so. But if she is new to exercise, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of yoga will be sufficient. And the entire duration of yoga, let's say, it should never ever exceed like 45 or 50 minutes. If you can't practice yoga for 1.5 hours, except for athletes. So upper limit, like it of course includes the warm up and cool down. So if you see an entire sample yoga session, it was somewhere not more than 30 minutes. Then there is meditation and breathing. So a lot of rest is there. So probably 30 minutes should be okay. Proper exercise.
Ma'am, can we do the asanas along with breathing?
Actually, a very good question. Whenever we talk about yogasana, an ideal yoga pose is always coordinated with breathing. Like how, like let's say I am inhaling and raising my hands up, for example, in Tadasana, and then I am continuing my breathing and then breathing out and relax. But if a mother, because if they have not learned yoga before, they are new to yoga, if you incorporate breathing in the very first consultation, they become very much confused, and they just keep on asking when we have to inhale. Remember, you teaching 10 asanas, and every asana has 4 sequence, and every sequence has 2 patterns of breathing. So how much they can remember? So don't complicate things. If you think they have difficulty in understanding, right, okay, what should be the breathing pattern, or you have taken their assessment, you know they are new to exercise, don't complicate things. Just tell them don't hold your breath, keep on breathing normally, because they know ki when I have to inhale, when I have to exhale. So just keep things simpler for them in the first visit. Just say keep on breathing, don't hold breath.
Ma'am, the next question is, can we take only session of Yoga Nidra one day and asana or pranayama on the other day?
It depends, like ideally the duration of Yoga Nidra extends up to 40-45 minutes. If you do in a proper way, it is a very long session. If they are willing to pay for that, definitely why not? But if it is just a part of your entire 1 hour session, probably 5 to 10 minutes is you have to limit yourself for relaxation.
Ma'am, which asana can be best used if the patient is suffering from dribbling incontinence during pregnancy?
If they are having dribbling, the best asana is Mool Bandh. If we call it Kegel's exercise, and in yoga you call it Mool Bandh asana. So of course the Kegel exercise is the best exercise to do during pregnancy. If you want to give a yoga name, it is called Mool Bandh asana.
And ma'am, which asanas should be avoided in the first trimester?
In first trimester, first and foremost thing you have to check is whether they should be doing any exercise or not, because first trimester is a high risk for abortion. The placenta is not formed properly. So if you have been referred by some doctor, if they are coming on your own, definitely check up with their healthcare provider whether they should be doing any exercises or not. If at all they have said okay, now you can start off with your asanas and exercise. So keeping in view their pre-pregnancy fitness status, what they were doing before, like if they have been doing gym 2 days before because they were not aware of pregnancy, definitely their fitness level would be better. If they have never done any exercise, then of course you start off with gentle asana. But in first trimester, don't let her overexert. The main focus is not about like lot of stretching, because there are not many biomechanical changes has happened. She has not gained too much weight, she's not having back pain or lota. She's in still getting adjusted to changes. She has nausea, she may have vomiting, she's feeling exhausted. So it's very gentle asana to to basically keep her body mobile, and a lot of focus on breathing and relaxation should be done. And gentle asana, no rigorous twisting, turning, exerting poses.
Right. So the next question is bridge pose indicated in the third trimester?
In as per the text, like whatever text we have with us, any asana or exercise in which you are lying supine after first trimester or probably 14 to 16 trimester is not advisable. Now when we talk about Setu Bandhasana or the bridge pose, remember, if you are lying in this pose for 10 minutes, then obviously it is going to impair the blood flow, and there may be mothers who may have a very huge tummy, so it might not be comfortable. But you have to check if she is having high BP or low BP. Definitely, Setu Bandhasana is not a very comfortable pose to be practiced in third trimester. But you have to check what is the relevance. Is she having a lot of back pain? Can you substitute it with some other exercise or a camel pose in which you are extending your back? But you have to judge. As so there is no demarcation. Doing few repetition, just lying for a few seconds on your back is not going to restrict the blood flow to the baby.
Okay. So the next question is, can all the exercises be safely done in all the 3 trimesters?
Exercise safety depend upon many factors. First and foremost, the medical clearance, whether they are allowed to do exercise or not. Then how the technique or how the exercise is being performed. Most of the asanas in which like twisting is happening, probably in the late second and third trimester, they are not very comfortable to perform, so you can better avoid that. All asanas in which you are standing for a very long time, remember in third trimester, there is so much weight on your tummy, the lot of compression is happening on the blood vessels, more swelling, more chances of varicose vein. So if you are doing lot of asana in standing position in third trimester, that is going to create problem. So probably a couple of asana in standing, then change your pose would be a better idea. So you have to alternate your positions.
Okay. And when should you stop the yoga sessions?
Any medical contraindication, if she had let's say any high BP, or she had cervical encirclage, or she had a leaking, she complained pain of abdomen, all the contraindications, you know, or the indications to stop exercising during pregnancy applies to yoga also.
And, ma'am, can you please guide with breathing during labor pains, the specific breathing exercises while pushing the baby?
It is a very elaborate topic. I don't think I can cover labor in this. I'm sorry.
When we should stop session immediately? What are the signs to stop the or terminate the session in between?
Very good question. Like, if you are explaining them, whether you're doing them individually in your clinical setting or you are doing in a group, so always before you begin your session, even if they are seeing you frequently or they are coming every week to you for exercises, few things, either you should place a chart in your clinic or the area where they are exercising, or before you begin, you know, when we go to airplane, every time they announce, we, even though we know all the details what she is saying, but still they repeat the process. You have to repeat. If you are having pain in any part of the body, right from head to toe, please stop exercise. If you are feeling breathlessness, if you are feeling something is leaking from your, you know, vaginal area, it could be incontinence, could be fluid also, like, you know, leaking of fluid, amniotic fluid or preterm contraction can also happen. You any pain, any leaking, any breathlessness, or you should always, or they should always report. If they are not feeling comfortable, you have to tell them any problem anybody is having, because in group session, if there are 10 mothers coming in different stages, you have to announce it beforehand, and be sure that water is available. Encourage them for water breaks also. Keep on asking them. And if you think they are feeling short of breath, you know, this kind of stage should never be reached in pregnancy exercise. We call it a talk test. Like, if they are able to talk comfortably, that means the safe zone of heart rate is being maintained.
Okay. Ma'am, one question that many people are asking is, how do you design this class, as in the frequency of the class, which week the pregnancy class can be recommended?
Okay. To be on a safer side, let's say if in your clinical setting, you are having references from different doctors, or you don't know, you know, from where they are coming. So second trimester is the best time to start off with a group session. Right, like you have a class, your 10 mothers are coming, so the best time to enroll is of course the second trimester. By that time the second level scanning has been done, and almost all the contraindications, you know, the first trimester risk has gone, the other location of placenta and cervix, everything has been ruled out. So that is the best time. But, and you have to be very careful, like if you are seeing them for the first time, you have to be sure that they are carrying their doctor's antenatal card or the at least latest ultrasonography, because in India we don't really have this practice of getting, you know, clearance for exercises for pregnant mother. In foreign, there are 3-4 pages form, Pay-Rata questionnaire, or even if you want to go to gymming, you have to get yourself examined medically before you enroll. In India, people are not much aware. You want to go gym, you go there and then they enroll you. Nothing like that. So you have to check and make sure that the first thing, it is safe for them to exercise. Then probably once in a week or twice in a week should be okay. And it depends upon your skill also. Like if you are making them practice same asana for all the 10-12 classes, they will lose interest. So it depends how many asanas or different exercises you can incorporate. But I would say probably starting from 18 to 20 weeks, and by that time they are 32 weeks, finish your package or that group session, because after that they might be going to mother's house or somewhere for delivery, and with bulging tummy they don't feel really comfortable, or you know, they feel awkward also. So probably a 10 classes session I would recommend. It could be more also, if depending they are interested, they want to come twice a week, it's okay. And 22 somewhere in 30 to 32 weeks.
Ma'am, one question more. In case of low-lying placenta, what precautions should be taken and which asanas can be done?
Low-lying placenta is of different grades. There are 4 grades of low-lying placenta. First is a milder one, in which the placenta ideally is located on the upper segment. If this is your uterus, it is somewhere upper. But if it is down, near the cervix or it is just over the cervix, then the chances of bleeding or miscarriage is high. And those cases, there you cannot attempt for normal delivery. They go for cesarean section. So if she is having a placenta, I would say do not recommend any exercise. Let's wait till because in first grade placenta they are usually allowed to do normal activity. Like it's not like they have to be on bed rest. Probably they can have a sedentary job, or they can go, they can come back. So no exertion or forward bending or lifting movement should be done. Anyways, nobody is doing them in pregnancy. So you have to go according to doctor. But if a mother who comes to me with the findings of grade 1 low-lying placenta and she say I want to learn exercise, I would always check out with the doctor whether they would like me to teach them certain exercises or
Okay. Ma'am, I'll take one last question. What to do if a female is having miscarriages again and again? Would we still be doing the asanas?
Again, you have to check out with the doctor what is the cause of miscarriage. If she's having a miscarriage, of course, it's a precious and complicated pregnancy. So what was the cause of miscarriage? So again, I said, first, always you have to rule out medical conditions before you start asana or any physiotherapy exercises in pregnancy. Because if anything wrong happens, for example, miscarriage, it's very sad for anybody. So always be sure before, start off with any exercises. That is why if you are seeing them first, I said, ask them to bring their doctor's OPD card, because sometimes they will not explain. Assessment is very important, that you have to rule out few things. And sometimes they will not tell. They might come to you in third trimester. They might have a history of bleeding in first trimester, or they will be on bed rest in second trimester. Now doctor said, okay, now you can walk, or now you go to your office. So you have to drag out their history and check out should we tell them or not. So that is why even if they are referred by doctors, few basic important things you should always rule out before you start off your exercise.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think
Thank
there
you.
are too many questions. I'm not able to take all of them.
No problem. You can, everybody who feels their questions are unanswered, they can share on my page and I would try to answer them or message them, whatever possible.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am, Dr. Aditi Srivastava, ma'am, for enlightening us with your knowledge and experience about yoga Garbha Sanskar in pregnancy. Thank you so much, Maharashtra State Coordinator, Dr. Suvarna Gadmir, ma'am, and State Joint Coordinators, Nihal Patil, ma'am, for guiding us and helping us always whenever needed. Thank you so much, Zonal Head, Dr. Pooja Kamble, National Head, Dr. Ruchi Varshe, and our President, Dr. Sanjeev Jha, sir, for having faith in us. Thank you, State Sub-Coordinators, Dr. Uttara Mohan, Dr. Priya Karande, and Dr. Nirali Sangvi, and entire technical team who were always there for a support. Thank you so much, all the physios, for your presence. Please put your feedback at the link below, which is shared, and have a great day ahead. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, entire team. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm not able to thank you everyone personally, but thank you for organizing this webinar and giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.